The idea behind it is to revolutionize luggage and go more towards a push action as opposed to a pull. In other words, you'll be pushing all of your luggage from here on in with G-ro, which is interesting. Hi everyone, welcome back to our session. All right, so a lot of things are going on, and what we're trying to do this time is connect the dots between several conversations. So we had a fantastic interview with Iran from Green Inbox, chatting all about the $1 Million Project and how to make it happen. And it's fascinating and very much challenging chat, because everyone wants to have $1 Million Project. Not everyone knows how to get there, and we got some cool practical tips on how to do it. And luckily, this time we had a chance to speak with Netta Shalgi. He's the founder of G-ro, who is now running $1 Million Project, hopefully $1 Million Project. I think they're up to about 750,000 now on Kickstarter for their new trolley called the Six.
To move forward in life, you have to let go of the past and never look back.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the project, and this is a background. This is your second project, I think. Is that right?
No, that's actually my fourth project and G-ro's third one, so yeah.
Right, because I think what we got to see and what the entire world got to see was this amazing first project that you had with something that no one had seen before, which is like this trolley with these big chunky wheels, and it kind of took the world by storm. That's the first time we got to hear about it. And the second one is obviously making a lot of waves. Tell us all about the journey and where you're at with it right now.
Sure, thank you. So I am Israeli born and raised, now living on Earth, on a cloud. Not really belong to anywhere anymore because of the path. So I started my way actually as industrial designer, and got my first stage of entrepreneurial actions when I was in my 20s. And I owned a business for industrial design in Israel and Tel Aviv, and did a lot of projects for external companies, small and big ones, mostly about my field of interest, about technology, medical, transportation, a lot of this, mostly about things around people, ergonomics, health, improving people's lives and stuff like that. And on the side, because of my personal passion and actually military service, I was an officer in the Air Force in a role that I traveled a lot. And when I say a lot, it means a lot on a daily basis abroad, lugging stuff and equipment. And I personally broke every single piece of luggage that I ever owned. And so are my colleagues. And when I got stronger in my knowledge and my capabilities of design, I realized that actually there is potential that I can do it better. I'm very into deep research, understanding the industry, long-term trends, not just the passion side of it, and looking at the long-term trends from the beginning of the days of travels, basically of commercial travels, when when people started to travel with steam engine based vehicles like ships, river cruise, trains, of course. And as always, technology is at the front. It changes everything. And when journey became a trip, when suddenly the port of landing was known and the time was known and the duration of the trip was known, because of that technology, everything changed. And from the days of basically Louis Vuitton all the way to our days, the early days of the jet engines, 747s, the Concorde, all those, All those technologies shifted luggage into what it is today. But I discovered along the lines an anomaly between what people actually need today in today's world of technology, smartphones, connectivity, cloud, working from remotely, to what the other companies actually offer. We discovered an anomaly that needs to be bridged, and this is the basis for the establishment of G-ro.
The idea behind it is to revolutionize luggage and go more towards a push action as opposed to a pull. In other words, you'll be pushing all of your luggage from here on in with G-ro, which is interesting.
The main point with the 6 is that we created a series of concepts, and we are actually executing the first one now on Kickstarter, on crowdfunding, next 20 days. Is basically that we, after long research, it began from our big wheels and the conversation with our existing customers, and also our own experience with our own luggage with the G-ro, is that we discovered that because of the large wheels, that we started all the story because of the large wheels, center of gravity, feels lighter, runs over every terrain.
Right.
People find themselves, the nature find a way how to behave with itself. So people find themselves actually pushing their luggage, and they can push the luggage unlike other luggage because it has the big wheels that just run over.
Right.
Curbs, cobblestones, whatever. And ergonomically, that's the right thing to do. But we discovered that we're doing it ourselves, and we started to talk with our customers, interview them, and we discovered that they find themselves doing this for quite some time. And the entire push configuration was born. And then we also know that 99% of the market using 4 wheels. So beside push and combining with 4 wheels, the 6 was born, that configuration. And the idea was to move all the industry to the right ergonomical solution. So,
which is to push your luggage as opposed to pulling it.
Yeah, pulling or rolling alongside you when you're going off any kind of smooth terrain like airport, terminal, or train station, you immediately going into lugging.
Right. So this is a really big change. So
it's a huge change. It's a huge change.
This is like talking to people about changing their basic behavior while traveling. So this is
totally. And then basically the 6, what we're calling, it's a push luggage, but it's the end of luggage, because luggage comes from luggage, and it's the end of luggage.
Right.
So this is a big change, also terminology wise. It's a big change, but what we use in the marketing is basically that over the research, we realized that every single thing in our lives moves from lugging into pushing. So starting with, with children's strollers that forever been put in front of us, and for a very good reason. I mean, ergonomically, the counterbalance of the pusher's body weight is applied on the object, is a Newton's first law, right?
You also want to see your kid in front of you. Like this.
Yeah, and then safety, security, control, everything that you need about, your cargo is exactly what you need when you're traveling. The second thing is, golf carts, mailman carts. Everything is to push instead of luggage. I mean, but luggage is just remain the same. So that will really change. I mean, just to see that all the industry moved into push and only luggage remained behind.
Super cool. So let's start with point 1, which is very self-evident with Netta. I mean, a lot of these things come from a very clear passion for the project. So I'm not saying that you have to be passionate about your product in order to do a $1 million Kickstarter project, but I think you kind of do, like at least in his case. So he's obviously very, very passionate about G-ro, his company, and specifically about the 6 for various reasons. And he talks in depth about his experience as a designer and how everything comes into play with both this project and with the product. So a good example of this is one thing that struck me is that they make everything bespoke. Like every part of the G-ro is made bespoke. In other words, nothing is like off the shelf. So that's really fascinating, and that's hopefully we can have a clip in like a few seconds about attention to detail, production, and everything being done bespoke. So cue that.
So the idea was to accommodate modern lifestyle for people who have to travel in order to pursue their profession. It means that people in a lot of countries, mostly the United States, the Chinese market, Australia, UK, people, I mean Europe in general, but people have to travel, have to leave their homes in order to meet their subject of profession, and they have to do it very often, short trips, all that. And suddenly the means of transportation allows that. So what kind of suitcase, what kind of bag or travel system, travel gear they need to have with us in order to accommodate that? And then you have all the regulation that kicks off. You have airlines restrictions, you have weight restrictions, you have different weathers, you have different habits, you have a lot of changes in fashion of travels, you know, new fabrics, lycra, wrinkle-free, all those. So all those factors are constantly changing and actually shaping the form of the means of mobility that we're taking with us. So we are trying very hard, not just to do what the factories can do, which is buying the same type of wheels, the same type of handles, put everything together, and there you go, luggage. And then the companies are basically marketing those boxes in a different way and different price points, but it's more of the same. We're trying to do through very heavy R&D and research, back and research, to really understand, as I said, the long-term trends, what people really need, heavy on the ergonomics and the emotional part of travels. And then we come up with what we really need, and then we kind of develop the industry to what the right solution should be versus what the industry can offer. That's why the luggage look different and behave different, and it also comes with a learning curve that we like to say, because it's not obvious, it's not sometimes it's not intuitive according to what people used to do. So that's the foundation of G-ro.
So I think it's really, really important that the founder and the people in the project are very much concerned with the passion that goes into the project. And that's very, very clear here. I think he has an international team from people all over the world, and this is their fourth project. So it's very much work that has to do with people knowing exactly what is happening as far as production, exactly what is happening as far as media, exactly what is happening in every step along the way, and then feeling very, very driven. So this is obviously a very driven individual. We've actually, it's important to note, I think we met 2 or 3 weeks ago. Was it 3 weeks ago, Max? In one of their events, which was really, really good, very thought out, very community focused, which brings us to my next point. So if, again, the whole idea of tying this session together with the previous session on how to do $1 million project, I think one of the most important points is taking Kickstarter offline. In other words, you should do all of your work for sure through the Kickstarter platform, but they did a really good job in creating community events all over the US, and I think they did internationally as well. So they hired a really good PR company, and a few other folks to be able to do community-centered events. And they went from place to place. They had a road show. So I think this point is really, really interesting.
We realized that the personal meetings with reporters, bloggers, whoever has some interest in the right people, because a lot of people would not even cover Kickstarter campaigns anymore. Again, because the field, the area is very crowded and deliver. So it's the reporters, bloggers' reputation about what they bring to their audience. Mm-hmm. Mutual responsibility from their side and from our side.
That's actually really interesting because we're definitely seeing that all across the board. There's a lot of fatigue when it comes to crowdfunding. A lot of really from in every aspect, be it hashtag, whatever. There's a whole lot of fatigue, and I'm assuming that the platforms are trying to deal with each in their own way. And doing a personal tour is huge. That's really great advice for a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, so part of the budgeting was to use PR companies because we don't have personally all the connections that we need. So we use PR companies. In our case, we use Blonde. I mean, they are good partners in Blonde 2.0, and they're bringing what we need in our field, which is mostly about finance, crowdfunding, technology. Cool. That's our field of expertise.
What is the name of the company again?
It's Blonde 2.0.
Blonde.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, so this is one side of the PR equation. The other side is fashion lifestyle. We use 929. It's an agency from New York. So cool. Basically, we bundle both of them together. So we have a clear, because we're coming from design, technology, travel, hospitality, crowdfunding. We had to make sure that whatever we can somebody who has an interest in our product or the project itself, we will be able to reach to.
Cool.
Before we combined with two that together they're bringing the whole expertise about it.
So here is the point that all of us as creators get to, and then either we get stumped with it, or it becomes detrimental within the project pricing. So always when you're doing pricing, then you need to be able to reach a point where you say to yourself, okay, this pricing is fair, it will work on Kickstarter, and it's also going to sustain the project. But there are a couple of points that if we go back to our conversation with the Green Inbox folks, then one point that kept coming to mind is the sweet spot. So Facebook vis-a-vis Kickstarter, in other words, Kickstarter vis-a-vis Facebook ads, makes it really appealing to have a product placed at around $80. It used to be $60 around 2015, 2016, but today a really good sweet spot for Facebook ads to make the ads work is around $80. And if you're able to sustain that over a month's time, then you have a successful project. Now, granted, if you have your pricing around $80, and the media isn't good, or the film or many other aspects don't work, then that won't do anything. But there is a question of how you do this. So with Netta, obviously this is a fairly expensive item because it's a premium item. So he was the way that they did their launch is they gave people the obligatory early bird pricing. So I think they were at around $350, and we'll see that in just a minute. And that's an important point because I think that was around 35% off. And if you're able to do that, then that's fantastic. But one point to keep in mind, these are luxury items. So there's a risk. You're running a very high risk of giving your customers obviously what they want, but at a high price point, your big challenge is to make sure that your messaging is right on point to be able to get it. So there's really a meeting point between your messaging and your pricing. So first of all, let's go take a look at a session when we're discussing with Netta about messaging. So that's the more critical point, and we'll take a look at that, and then we'll take that into pricing. So let's take a look at what he did as far as messaging, because obviously for him, he's looking to revolutionize luggage. So no small task. So let's check that out.
So that's the 6, okay? And when we're talking, it's a carry-on size bag, so it's a 22 by 14 by 9 inches.
So it'll fit in all overhead compartments.
Yeah, it will fit in overhead compartment, mostly for U.S. and international carriers. Some of them are 21 and a half. If it were hard, soft side luggage, it would squeeze in, but since it's a hard side, it's exactly the dimensions. So the idea was to turn into push. So instead of going on the wide side, we put the handle on the narrow side on both sides. And then basically that's the concept. And now mechanically, how the challenge was how to knock down all the components to turn into push. So the most significant thing that you can see is the wheels and the handles. So we use the G-ro wheel at the back. That still allows all-terrain capabilities, and it allows, it's a fixed wheels that is very, you can see that it doesn't take any of the internal space. I mean, by a bit, but, and then it also, this is very low. I mean, that ground clearance is very low. So it's very low. Yeah, it increases the packing space because we took the bottom all the way down, and the problem was, I mean, not the problem, but the challenge was to incorporate spinners. And we started that wheel because all the spinners that we ever had broke. So we didn't want to have like state-of-the-art G-ro wheels, you know, or all the magic in the back, and to have
some
like
wonky little wheels up front, right?
Yeah. So we took 2 years and we developed our own spinners. I mean, full bearing spinners.
You developed your own spinners?
Yeah, we developed everything from scratch after 2 years of research.
That's insane.
But we developed everything. We developed those wheels. I mean, and after developing those wheels, the spinner was a breeze.
Right. Okay.
We already have a lot of engineering capabilities. We have the supply chain. We have the material science. We're really. I mean, I think between all of us, I mean, the development team, we have almost 40 years of experience of luggage development and manufacturing, and also I think we are part of the most knowledgeable teams in luggage development in the world today. We are going to a lot of different factories. We see everything. I mean, we see the trends in the industry, and we just adopt and bring what we need. Trying to play with industry capabilities and to move the industry. Right.
So the idea is to be able to have nothing short of a revolution in carry-on luggage, and then afterwards in luggage, in different kinds of luggage, not just carry-on. So I mean, they have a big task on their hand, but at the same time, it justifies the price. So he took quite a bit of a risk with a high price point, and many high price point items on Kickstarter tend to fail if the messaging doesn't match the pricing. And in this point, it really does. So this, for us who look at Kickstarter kind of like from above, I mean, we're makers. We have a whole bunch of Kickstarter projects behind us. But at this point, we're kind of like trying to figure it out macro. He took a risk and it paid off, which is kind of great to see. So this is not, this goes back to the point about having passion. So this is something that you can do if you're really passionate about it. If you're not all that passionate about your product, you won't be able to take the risk needed, kind of like a la Elon Musk or something. You really have to be able to do that, and he did. And it seems to be paying off, which is great. That you have into this ecosystem of travel that a lot of people have had into other spheres, be it tech or clothing or whatever, but trying to create a sea change within travel luggage is really, really interesting.
that I like to call myself a time traveler. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, it says time traveler, which I don't travel, I don't leap into the future or to the past. But actually, we all, in a way, we're all time travelers because we travel through time. I mean, from childhood into adulthood into, old age, hopefully. But it doesn't happen in a second. It happens throughout our lifetime, and a lot of changes occur through this lifetime. So we are facing time changes, but not just in the density that we imagine as time travel, but we all travel through time. So this is another thing that I'm investigating and researching for a while.
Which brings me to my last question, or maybe it's too early to ask. Are you going to have the fourth Kickstarter project? Like, are you already? You must be already on your next design. Is your mind already thinking that far forward, or are you now fully on the six? And then innovation is in the background.
Yeah, we are way ahead of the six. Of course, we like to say that the product development only starts when the first products hit the market. Like, people start to use them, and then you see all the problems immediately. It's very nice because the other part of crowdfunding is the first day, the second day, you launch a product, people start to ask questions that we forgot to ask ourselves. So it's, the crowd is asking, and suddenly there are so many so many questions that some of them were not asked before. It's very interesting. Luckily, we are in that process. We were not like super surprised about the questions. There were one or two maybe that we actually didn't think about before, but any question is a good question.
Right.
No, we are standing behind our word regarding the push configuration.
Cool.
And we would not launch the 6 if we didn't have like the entire line for people to start to push their luggage. So basically, the innovation and everything, all the world that we are creating in G-ro is moving towards push. So the 6 is the most queen mother because it's a carry. Most of the people, carry-on is the first piece of luggage that you need to own, and then later on, according to your needs, you can create a collection of what you really need. But the carry-on is the must-have, and then a backpack, and then larger bag, and et cetera, et cetera.
So it's the beginning of a push revolution, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, all our line is towards push, G-ro wheels, custom spinners, packing space. I mean, really accommodates all the systems that we know how those bags perform individually, how they perform as a system. So we are way ahead with the development, and we are dosing it to the market. So just to tie together some of the threads that we put out there. So obviously you need to be passionate about what you do. So Netta is very much a nerd about his gear, which is fantastic. So that enabled him to take a fairly high risk with this project, with a price point that's fairly high even at the early bird, and still win. So that's I would say that's a prerequisite for $1 million project. You need to be able to take the risk. You need to be able to set your budget aside to be able to do it. And then you need to execute. So he used offline techniques and then online techniques, and it's very much paying off. Much of the firepower that he used was in his past projects, which were phenomenally successful. So that's where we're at with this. I think it's a really interesting test case. And also a really great product that has a real solid vision. So if I don't think you need to have vision as a prerequisite for $1 million project, but boy does it help. So his vision, if to put it in one word, is to revolutionize luggage and turn it into a push technology as opposed to a pull one. It's a great call to action, and I think it works really, really well. So join us for our next session. We're going to be having more and more of these, more interviews, more discussions on live projects, projects that worked, projects that did not, and why. And this is also a good opportunity
to send the ball over to you guys. It'll be great to hear from you, see what you think of some of these episodes, and if you have a project that you think is suitable for us to chat about, we'll be more than happy to hear whether it's live or something that's in the past that you're interested in discussing, or even better, something that you have in the works. In any case, we'd love to hear from you guys. All right, that's it from us. Take care.